Hello guys, welcome to the second part of the series Beginner's Guide to Procreate. For the ones who don't know me, my name is Inês, I'm a Portuguese illustrator, and on this video I will be talking about the brushes and the layers on Procreate. If you are interested on this topic, you can watch my first video where I talked about the left side of Procreate interface. I hope you enjoyed the video and let's begin. Once you have your Procreate file open, on the top right corner you will have the brush tool, the smudge tool and the eraser tool. All of these three have the same brushes. You can import more brushes into Procreate. Over the years I have bought some brushes and downloaded. Procreate comes with a vast variety of great brushes, so you don't need to download anything if you don't want to. I'm going to paint now with a monoline brush. And for the smudge tool, I'm going to choose the soft hair brush. And as you can see, this smudges the paint. This is great if you have two different colors and you want to blend them together. And then you can erase with whatever brush you prefer. I normally use the soft hair brush or the same brush that I'm using on the painting tool. This icon here is the layer menu. This menu is actually very complete. It has here the background color that normally is in white, but you can change in whatever color you want. When you click on the plus icon, you will add more layers. And now let's imagine that you have a bunch of layers and you want to combine all of them into just one. You just need to compress them like this. If you prefer just to group them, you can slide to the right and select all of them and then click on the group button. This is very helpful when you have a lot of layers and you want to organize your drawing. You just need to group them in different categories and name them. And when they are in a group, you can also slide to the left and choose whether if you want to lock the group or duplicate or delete the group. And you can also do this in each layer. There are so many things that you can do with the layer menu. If you click on the image of the layer you're working with, it will open another menu where you can rename the layer, select the layer. In this case, only the drawings on this layer will be selected. This is very helpful for when you want to only draw on that layer. So imagine that you want to do something on this circle and you want to do on a new layer. So you add a new layer, and by selecting only the previous layer, your drawing will only appear inside of the shape you have selected, which in this case is a circle. There are also different ways to do this, and I will explain later on in the video. A quick shortcut to erase is just tap with two fingers on the screen. So next, you can fill the layer with another color, normally is the one that is selected on the color wheel. Now imagine that you want to only color the circle. What you have to do is click on the select button and then click fill layer, and that will fill only the circle. Next we have the clear button. This will erase everything on that layer. Next you can alpha lock the layer. So in this part is basically the same as the selected one, only the circle is selected, and in this one you can see that the background on the image has white and gray squares, and so if you draw on that layer it will only appear on the circle. The third way to do this is by making a clipping mask. There are a lot of different ways and you can choose the best one for you. You know that the layer is on clipping mask mode if the arrow is pointing down, and if I take the clipping mask mode, the brush strokes that I did will all appear. Still on the alpha lock part, if you want a shortcut, in my case I use it a lot, so I prefer the shortcut. You just have to slide with two fingers to the right, and if you want to take off the alpha lock is the same, slide two fingers to the right. And finally you have the reference. This is very helpful for people that use line work on their drawings. So imagine that you have all your black line work and then you want to color within the lines. As an example, let's imagine that I have this drawing, which is just lines, and I want to paint inside of the lines, but on different layers, so that later, if I want to, I can change the colors more easily. Instead of painting by hand on the second layer, something that would take a lot of time, I select the drawing layer as a reference, and on top of that I add a new layer where I will drag the color I want there. And ta-da! So much easier, no? So now we're going to talk about the bar that appears on the side of our canvas. On the top we have the size of the brush. The little square in the middle is to color pick. Some artists use this tool to color pick more faster. They put one hand in one side and then with the other one they color pick it. And you also can color pick just by holding your finger on the screen. And the bottom bar is to choose the opacity of your brush. I'm just going to show you guys now an example by using a brush without the opacity. And now with the opacity on 20%. I use this very often when I'm adding a blush on my character cheeks or when I add a complexion on the skin. And finally, the two small arrows on the bottom are to undo and redo. I also wanted to just talk a little bit about the color wheel and whenever you apply color on your drawings. I have already shown you how to quick color fill a shape. You just have to drag the color to the desired area and then, if necessary, slide to the right to fill in more or to the left if you want to reduce it. Often what happens is that no matter how much I fill in to the maximum, as I use a lot of brushes with textures, it will always be necessary to adjust the edges. Let's move on to the last three top icons that we haven't talked about yet. Starting with the adjustments menu. As the name implies, this menu will adjust your design in different ways. Let's imagine that we have this drawing and now I want to see more color options and see if other colors go better with each other. For that, I use the Hue, Saturation and Brightness tool. This normally helps me a lot when I have difficulties choosing the color palette for my drawings. Now, the color balance splits red, green and blue into their own sliders. And each of these colors are balanced with its opposite, cyan, magenta and yellow. And it also splits the highlights, midtones and shadows of your image into 3 sections. I usually just change the shadow part, adding more blues and reds. Next up is the Curves tool. I use it a lot as soon as I finish my drawing to adjust the reds and the blues. And it also ends up unifying the whole drawing more. The Gradient Map tool allows you to define a color or black and white gradient, and then this gradient is mapped to your image according to the luminosity in the image. It is a very powerful tool if you know how to use it, which is not my case. Next up, we have the 3 blurs. The first one is the very famous Gaussian blur. This tool smooths out your active layer to give your image a soft, out-of-focus appearance. It's perfect for backgrounds when we want a semi-blurred background. The second one is the motion blur. I use this a lot whenever I'm drawing objects in motion, like leaves falling down or the hair in the wind. Basically, it creates the illusion of speed and motion by applying a streaky blur to your active layer. In these last 2 cases, I use the brush to just apply the blur in the exact places I want, otherwise the program will apply it to the selected layer. And the third one is the perspective blur. This one helps you to add a dramatic zooming and directional blasting effect. You choose the focus point and everything around it gets a directional blur from that point. The next tool I use very often is the noise tool. I love to add this one as soon as I finish my drawings to give it some texture. But before that one, I usually use the sharpen tool, because this one enhances the final detail in your image for a crisp and focused look. And only then I use the noise tool. The bloom tool adds a realistic and atmospheric glow to your drawings, and you can also choose the intensity you want. The glitch filters are designed to replicate glitches and distortion to your artworks. For example, in this case I use it in the background. The halftone, I never use it, but basically it replicates a similar effect to a magazine printing or a BD. And then, regarding the filters, we still have the chromatic aberration. That basically it's an effect that can be added to an image to simulate this distortion, giving it a distorted rainbow-like appearance. I use this tool a lot together with the motion blur, but I always apply it with the brush and in specific areas. And finally, we have my favorite tool, which is the Liquify. This one lets you paint your effects onto the canvas using your finger or the Apple Pencil, and it has 7 different modes. The first one is the one that I use the most, which is the push one. Basically, it allows you to drag the drawing. The next effect is the trill that allows you to make very interesting abstract ways with colors, and you have either for right way and left way. Then we have the pinch that basically decreases the selected area. The expand is exactly the opposite, it increases. The crystals and the edge liquify tool, I never used it, so I can't talk much about these ones. Then the reconstruct tool serves to reduce some specific part that you have altered a lot and you want to go back to the beginning. And finally, the reset is to undo your changes. Next up, we have the selection button. If you tap on it, it will bring up the selection toolbar. This will show you a range of ways to define the area you would like to edit. With the automatic selection, you can tap other areas on your canvas and the automatic mode will add them to your selection. Remember to adjust the threshold to your selection to make in more or less of your chosen area. If the percentage is on maximum and you tap on one color, it will select everything. So just keep in mind that sometimes you have to adjust. And once you have that adjustment correct, you can include more areas of your drawing just by tapping on the areas that you would like to include. The freehand is the one that I use the most whenever I'm doing a sketch. On this one, you draw your selection freehand with the finger or the Apple Pencil, and you don't need to be afraid to lift your finger or pencil. You can keep drawing your selection by placing it down again. And this basically allows you to make straight lines. And with the next one, it selects with a rectangle shape and the other one with the ellipse shape. And with the freehand, whenever you want to close a selection, you just need to tap on the gray circle, and then you can add more elements just by drawing it again. You can also change the color of a shape very easily just by selecting with the automatic selection and then tap on color fill. And finally, we have the transform tool, which allows you to stretch, move and manipulate any part of your image for fast and easy edits. However, when you do these changes, the quality of the image will decrease and it will show the pixels. That's why, even though I use it a lot, I only use it whenever I'm doing the sketch phase. However, this tool is amazing because it allows you to rotate, to flip, fit to screen and make magnetic adjustments. And you can change your image in different ways. With the freeform, you can scale and rotate freely. The uniform transform does exactly the same while perfectly preserving your original image proportions. Then I use the distort transform to create objects in perspective, and the warp one allows you to fold and warp your artwork. It gives you a more natural shape. And we have reached the end of this part of the Procreate interface series. I hope it has helped you to better understand this application that I love and I use so much. And in the next video of this series, we're going to create a drawing with all the things we have learned here, which is the best way to assimilate our knowledge. Also, if you like this video, please don't forget to give a thumbs up and to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys next video. Bye!